Hip-hop education has become part of the discussion over modernizing teaching methods to connect to the diversification of the public school demographics in the 21st century. My research has led me to the question, will incorporating hip-hop into education benefit students of different races and ethnicities? Bob Dylan's song, Blowin' in the Wind, was written during the Civil Rights Movement. Dylan says in the first 2 lines of the song, "How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man?" This is a reference to black men that had to go on many marches until they could be called men. Even though Bob Dylan is not a hip-hop artist, his lyrics are similar to a common hip-hop song because many hip-hop artists use their platform to speak on social issues and point out the wrongdoings by society. Lauren Kelly, Christopher Emden, and Bettina Love have studied how hip-hop education can create a better learning environment for the students and teachers. Researching the different perspectives of this topic, I have come to the thesis. Hip-hop pedagogy must be integrated into all schools because it is a tool that makes students more interested in the content mandated by state standards. Studying the history of hip-hop will allow teachers and students to be culturally aware in the classroom. Hip-hop has been a part of the African American culture since it was created in Bronx, New York in the 1970s. The beginning of hip-hop must be contemplated because it is vital to show students how the music affected the public and how it changed social norms. Ben Westhoff spoke on Tupac Shakur's career and described it as one that will be remembered for many years to come because of the person he was, the people he influenced when he was alive, and the generations he will continue to influence in the future. Tupac spoke on issues in his neighborhood that are still relevant today. He began to touch on the question that no one had the platform to express. Why is a black life not worth the same as a white life? Tupac's music was so apparent in the culture because his lyrics spoke the truth about what was happening in the neighborhoods that no one took a second glance at. 2 professors at Harvard University, Timothy McCarthy and John Stauffer, created a class titled Modern Protest Literature, From Thomas Paine to Tupac. The class's goal was to discuss protest literature and how it can be apparent in all forms, from poems to hip-hop music. McCarthy states, "We want students to see how language can affect social change." As Ben Westhoff stated, Tupac's music shed light on the people who needed a voice and spoke up to contradict the society he was living in. Creating a class revolving around Tupac's music will allow students to connect with the message he is giving in and out of class. Chris Wallace or Biggie Smalls had a career that was just as prominent as Tupac's. Franny Kelly, a NPR journalist, states, "Big influence a generation." Tupac and Biggie's music are still apparent today because many of the same issues that occurred in the urban communities when they were alive are still relevant today. Although Tupac and Biggie Smalls had the same goal while creating music, to typify the struggles they had faced in their communities, there is still much debate regarding who was the better artist. Christopher Emden, a professor at Columbia University, compares Tupac and Biggie to Einstein and Newton when the students are struggling to decide who is the better scientist. When Tupac and Biggie were alive, it was common for many people to take sides and only choose to listen to one artist at a time. The students had to choose sides when deciding who was a better artist and scientist. So this led the students to interact with each other in a live debate about a topic that was fun to learn about. Much like Timothy McCarthy and John Stauffer, Christopher Emden and Ben Westhoff have used hip-hop pedagogy and believe it can change teaching for the better. American classrooms are predominantly white, so the presence of minorities in the classroom must be recognized. Hip-hop pedagogy allows the minorities to be engaged in the classroom discussion because the issues that the artists are bringing to light in their lyrics are relevant in the communities the students are living in. Christopher Emden states in his book, For White Folks Who Can't Teach in the Hood, that there is a vast divide between urban students and the white teachers in the school. It is common for a white teacher to teach in an urban community because they feel the need to help the students that have less than they do. Emden asks the question, what new lens or frameworks can we use to bring white folks who teach in the hood to consider that urban education is more complex than saving students and being a hero? Emden claims the urban youth are neo-indigenous, for they will not be overlooked or dismissed. Their culture must be accepted in and outside of the school. Lauren Lee Kelly, a high school English teacher, uses hip-hop in her classroom every day. When Kelly describes students who do not engage as much in the regular class, she has observed that the students who do not participate are the African American, Latino, and economically underprivileged students. Kelly informs her students that hip-hop is a form of poetry and teaches them the value that it has in many cultures. As Kelly was analyzing a hip-hop song with the class, the next week a student connected lyrics from the song to a book that they were reading, showing how the student continued to make connections to the song outside of class. Understanding the culture that the artist is a part of will allow the students to analyze and engage in the global impact of many cultures. Kelly and Emden both provide examples of teachers who have used hip-hop in the classroom and have seen improvements in the class attitude and the students' work. The only way to allow them to succeed would be to embrace their culture through hip-hop while creating connections to academia. To conclude with the solution by Christopher Emden, hip-hop pedagogy seminar courses must be offered at all high schools and elementary schools, or hip-hop must be integrated into the academia that is provided by the state. Creating a seminar course revolving around hip-hop will allow students to speak their mind about the topics that normally would not be discussed in school. Talking about issues outside of the classroom with peers will give the students a chance to see multiple viewpoints on one topic and help them increase social skills. The limitations to these solutions would be that the administration of each school would have to approve the hip-hop classes, and the stress it would cause the white members of the faculty who do not feel they have a connection to hip-hop. Though white teachers or students may not connect with hip-hop, they will be learning that hip-hop is not just a genre of music, but a form of expression through a culture. Hip-hop pedagogy has become a topic that many teachers have begun to use and see the improvements of in their classroom. Marcus Garvey, a political leader, says that culture legacy is the only way to truly know your culture. Culture legacy is one of the many things that can determine a person's destiny and their means to succeed. Students spend a majority of their time in school, so in order to embrace their culture, it must be done in the place they are every day. Students who feel accepted in their classroom by other students and teachers will succeed more than students who feel neglected. Edmund Adjepong, a science and hip-hop urban educator, has said that hip-hop culture draws from the frameworks of culture-relevant pedagogy and reality pedagogy. Cultural pedagogy and reality pedagogy are essential in the classroom because they both work together to create an environment for the student that is accepting and inclusive. Garvey and Adjepong both discuss how important it is to accept one's culture and how vital it is to obtain it. To draw to a close, hip-hop education improves student success rate because of the culture relevance and how important hip-hop culture was in the past and how it has transformed to what it is today.
Rebecca, thank you. First question for you. How did you select the strategies you used to gather information or conduct your research, and were they effective?
Well, first I didn't know, I was just interested in hip-hop education. I didn't know much about it. So when I just kind of went on Google and just Googled it and see what I could find if I was interested in it. So once I did that, I found Christopher Emden, who's kind of a big deal when you're talking about hip-hop education. So once I found him, I found many things that he's done, speeches and obviously his books and everything. So once I found him, I was able to find different sources Edmund Adjepong, who also, they're in the same field and they teach at the same school, so they were really easy to find and they gave me a lot of other sources and information.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, what advice would you have for other researchers who consider the same topic?
I would advise them to find schools and classrooms who are predominantly white and have a mostly white culture in their school, and see if they have used hip-hop education or if they are interested in using it, and then incorporate that into your other research and maybe say why they should use it or why they said that they would not and why.
Okay, thank you.